Alright, here we go. Test review number 4. Oh my goodness, we're on our 4th test. Anyways, okay, so we're going to look at the literal equations here. So you can see on number 1, we want to solve for p. Okay, so key on that. So look at so we want this little p by itself. So what is rt doing to p? Well, r and t is multiplying. So then that means I need to divide. Okay, and that's it. That's all you can do. So p has to equal what this says, I divided by RT. So we're treating these letters like numbers and we're just undoing to isolate the letter that we want. Okay? So here I want to solve for x, which means I want to isolate the x, which means this minus 12 needs to move over here to the y, and then I need to take care of that 1/4. Well, what is the opposite of a minus 12? Plus 12. So I get plus 12, so now I have y plus 12 is equal to 1/4 x. Now let's keep in mind, what does 1/4 mean? This means divide by 4. So what's the opposite of dividing? Multiplying. So I get x is equal to, and I'm going to multiply over here, 4y plus 12, close the parentheses, which could be 4y plus 48. I would take either one to be your answer. Alright, so I want to solve for y here. So how do I get rid of this? Well, let's see, I've got an addition and I've got division. Okay, I've got to get rid of the divide, so let's multiply by 2. So I get 2a is equal to x plus y. Well, what's the opposite of adding an x? Subtract an x. Subtract an x. So now I get y is equal to 2a minus x. And there's my answer. Okay, and then finally, I'll do the other one, number 4, on another sheet of paper. So just give me one moment. Not another sheet of paper, next slide. I hate it when I do that. Okay, so I want 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h, and I want to solve for h. So here's the h. So all of this right here is being added to it, and all of this right here is being multiplied. So let's get rid of the adding. So what's the opposite of adding? Subtracting. So 2 pi r squared. So now I've got a is minus 2 pi r squared is equal to 2 pi r h. All of this is multiplying, so I can divide. That leaves me with the h by itself, and I would write all that. A minus 2 pi r squared over 2 pi r, and that would be my answer. And that's it. That's all you got to do. So most of these, the idea is, okay, figure out what variable you want by itself, and then go ahead and take the time to to isolate it. All right. So here, let's look at these. Number 5. Okay, so all you got to do here, guys, is remember, plug it in first. Absolute value of 6 times negative 1. That gives you negative 6, but then you're taking the absolute value of that, which would give you positive 6, and there's your answer. 2b plus 4, so I'm saying absolute value of 2 times negative 8 plus 4. And again, press enter. That would give you 2 times negative 8 is negative 16, plus 4 is negative 12. The absolute value of negative 12 is 12. Now, remember, you can use a calculator and you would be able to solve those quite easily. Okay, now notice number 7, you've got a negative. Okay, so I'm saying negative absolute value of 10 times 1.4 plus a negative 1. This will give me 14 plus negative 1, so I get 13, absolute value of 13, but there's a negative there, is going to be 13, but then that negative is going to make it negative 13. So keep in mind, if you have a negative out there in front, you should have a negative answer. Number 8, I'm saying the absolute value of 17 times 5 plus the absolute value of 3 times negative 8 minus 5. Well, 17 times 5 is 85 plus 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. Minus 5 is negative 29. And then basically that ends up being 85 plus 29 because the absolute values again would do that. So you get 114. And there you go. Okay, number 9 here. Okay, so here I'm going to say negative 6 times 10 times a negative 1 minus 12. That's going to give me negative 10 minus 12 is negative 22. The absolute value of that times a negative 6. Now the absolute value of that is positive 22. So really what happens here is I get negative 6 times a positive 22, which will give me negative 132. Okay, I think there was a similar question like that on the quiz, if not exactly like that, so you got to be careful with those type of questions. Okay, finally here, okay, I'm going to put here the absolute value of 2 times negative 8 minus 1, absolute value of that minus absolute value of negative 8 times a negative 8 plus 5. Again, all of this you can type in the calculator. Y'all know how to do it. But anyways, here I get negative 16 minus 1 is negative 17. The absolute value of that is going to be positive 17. Negative 8 times negative 8 is positive 64, so I get 69. The absolute value of 69 is 69, but there's going to be that minus, so 17 minus 69 would be 252, negative 52. So again, this negative here forced us to get a negative at the end. So kind of keep in mind, most of that should be fairly easy, and there really shouldn't be any reason why you're missing those. Alright, so let's look at number 11. Okay, so n minus 4, okay, the absolute value here, this right here, is all by itself. As in, there is nothing outside of the absolute value symbols, which means I can now say n minus 4 is equal to 13, n minus 4 is equal to negative 13. Add 4 to both sides. You get n is equal to 17 and negative 9. Okay, so there are my two answers. Now the question is, and again, I want you to check. If I put 17 in here, 17 minus 4, is the absolute value of that equal 13? Yes, it does. If I put negative 9 in here, negative 9 minus 4 is negative 13, but the absolute value of that equals positive 13. So both answers check, so that means your final answer is 17 and negative 9. Always check your answers. Okay, so now next I want to add, same thing here. I'm going to say, okay, its absolute value is isolated, so I'm going to say x minus 13 is equal to 2. X minus 13 is equal to negative 2. So I'm going to add 13 to both sides, and x equals 15. I'm going to add 13 to both sides, and x equals 11. So I can see here both numbers are these answers. If I put it in here, 15 minus 13 is 2, so that checks. 11 minus 13 is negative 2, but the absolute value of that is 2, so those check. So again, my final answers are 15 and 11, and I don't care what order they're in. Maybe in the multiple choice they do, I don't care. Alright, so next one I'm looking at 2y that's isolated. Notice again, I'm going through these pretty quick, but these are isolated. The first three were isolated. 2y equals 20, which means the absolute value is by itself. 3 equals negative 29. Okay, so I'm going to add 3 to both sides. I get 2y is equal to 32. Divide by 2. And y is equal to 16. Here I add 3 to both sides. Okay, apparently something went wrong with the iPad, but we got it figured out. Okay, anyways. Negative 26. Divide by 2. And you get y is equal to negative 13. Now this is where, again, you need to make sure you knew how to do solving equations, because if you're having trouble with solving equations, well, then this is just going to be hard. And then solving systems of equations is going to be more fun. Anyways, if I put 16 in here, 2 times 16 is 32, minus 3 is 29, so that checks. If I put negative 13 here, 2 times negative 13 is negative 26, minus 3 is negative 29, but the absolute value of that is positive, so both numbers check out, and that means that's my answer. So the main idea again is trying to solve. I do believe this video is going to get a little bit long, but fast forward as you need to, kiddos. Okay, so look at 14. Now notice on 14, the absolute value is not isolated. I've got this 7 on the outside. What is the 7 doing? Well, it is multiplying, so I need to divide by 7 first. So I'm saying the absolute value of x plus 3 is equal to 42 divided by 7, which is 6. So now I'm saying x plus 3 equals 6. X plus 3 equals negative 6. Subtract 3. You get x is equal to 3. Subtract 3. X is equal to negative 9. Okay, so there's my two answers. And again, if I plug it in, 3 plus 3 is 6 times 7. The absolute value of 6 is 6, so 7 times 6 is 42. Put the negative 9 in here, I get negative 6, the absolute value of that is 6, and 6 times 7 is 42. So both answers check out. Here on number 15, I can see that this is isolated, so I can say 3u minus 6 is equal to 42. 3u minus 6 is equal to negative 42. So I add 6 to both sides. I get 3u is equal to 48. Divide by 3, and u is equal to 16. Add 6 over here. I get negative 36. 3u divided by 3, and u is equal to negative 12. Okay, so, and again, if I check it out, 3 times 16 is 48, minus 6 is 42, and the absolute value of that is 42. 3 times negative 12 is negative 36, minus 6 is negative 42, the absolute value of that. So again, they both check. Alright, and then number 16. Notice here, absolute value is isolated, I'm ready to solve. It's equal to a negative, which is not possible. So automatically you stop there and say no solution. So 16, yay, that one's nice and easy. 17, I want to isolate, so I need to divide by negative 3. That gives me absolute value of 4x minus 9 is equal to negative 8. And again, can be equal to negative, so no solution. No solution for you. Alright, here though, I'm going to divide by negative 6. Okay, so you can see here, this one, now I'm dividing negative 9 by negative 6, which gives me a positive 1.5. So I converted it to a fraction, or I'm sorry, a decimal for all you little fraction, scaredy cat, wannabe, whatevers. Wimpies. Anyways, so now now you can see this is isolated, so I'm going to say 5 minus 2y is equal to 1.5, or 1.5. 5 minus 2y is equal to negative 1.5. So this 5 has got to move over and it's positive, so I'm going to subtract 5. So I get negative 2y is equal to negative 3.5. That's a negative. And then I'm going to divide by negative 2. So y would equal positive 1.75. Okay, subtract 5 over here, and they end up adding together, so I get negative 2y is equal to negative 6.5, and divide by negative 2, and y is equal to positive 3.25. Okay, so again, you would have to plug those in. If you put 1.75 in here, you get 3.5 minus 6, or minus 5, and you would end up with, I'm sorry, 5 minus 3.5 would give you 1.5, and times the negative 6 would give you the negative 9. Here, I do the same thing with 3.25, and I get negative 6.5, which would give me negative 1.5, which would, yes, it all checks out. So just trust me, it checks out. Alright, so let's look at 19. 19 is just all sorts of fun. I'm going to rewind this one back a bit. Okay, so you can see here, it is isolated, so I'm going to go ahead and play it out and say 8 plus p is equal to 2p minus 3, and 8 plus p is equal to the negative of 2p minus 3. So notice how I have that in parentheses and with the negative on the outside. So notice how I'm always on the left positive and on the right negative. I don't know why, just that's what I do. Okay, all that negative does is change the sign. Notice how the sign of everything that was in parentheses changed to what it is in outside, or when the parentheses is gone. And then I'm solving. Variables to the left, numbers to the right. So notice how the 8 is going to move to the other side. And then I can divide, and I should have my answer there. P is equal to 11. Again, variables to the left, numbers to the right. Plug it in, and you get -5/3. Okay, so there's that. Then I need to check them. So here's me checking them, putting 11 in for the P, and then I'll put in the -5/3. And notice here how they get you this, like with the 11 it works. 11 counts as an answer. But with the -5/3, I get +19/3 and I get -19/3, which would not work, so then my answer can only be 11. Alright, so let's look at number 20. Okay, same thing. 4w minus 1 is equal to 5w plus 37. And then 4w minus 1 is equal to -5w plus 37. So that means if I make that 4w minus 1 is equal to -5w minus 37. Okay, variables to the left, minus 5w. That gives me -1w. Minus 1 is equal to 37. Over here, if I move it over, I become positive 5w. Gives me 9w. Minus 1 is equal to -37. Then I'm going to move the number to the right, so plus 1 plus 1. -1w is equal to 38. Here, plus 1 plus 1. 9w is equal to -36. Then I can divide by -1. Get w is equal to -38, and I can divide by 9 to get w is equal to -4. So there are my two answers. Now let's check them. So I'm going to put in here 4 times -38 minus 1 is equal to 5 times -38 plus 37. Okay, this right here is going to become a positive number. So like I can say 4 times -38, that's 32, carry to 3, 152, negative minus 1, gives me, absolute value of that would give me positive 153. This right here is going to give me negative, let's see, 40, carry that 4, 190 plus 37, and you're going to get negative 153, which doesn't work. So -38 doesn't work. Now let's check the other one. 4 times -4 minus 1, absolute value of that, 5 times -4 plus 37. Well, this is going to give me -17. Absolute value of that is positive 17. This is going to give you -20 plus 37, which is 17. So that works. Check, check. Final answer is -4 only. And there you go. Alright, so last two examples and then I'm done. Number 21, 4, absolute value 2y minus 7, absolute value or plus 5 equals 9. Okay, I want the absolute value by itself, so I need to get rid of this minus 5. 4, absolute value 2y minus 7 is equal to 4, divide by 4, and then 2y minus 7 is equal to 1. So now I'm saying 2y minus 7 is equal to 1, 2y minus 7 is equal to -1. Add 7, 2y is equal to 8, divide by 2, and y is equal to 4. Here add 7, 2y is equal to 6, divide by 2, and y is equal to 3. Okay, so I plug those in there, and if I check them, 2 times 4 is 8, minus 7, minus 7 is 1, and 4 plus 5, that one checks out. 3, you get -1, becomes 1, 4 plus 5, 1, so they both check out, you're fine. And finally, oh my goodness gracious, I can't believe this is such a long video. negative 2, parentheses 7 minus 3y, close it, minus 6 is equal to negative 14. Add 6. You get negative 2, absolute value of 7 minus 3y. Notice here, I'm not assuming that this is going to be no solution. I need to get this isolated first. Once I divide by negative 2, you notice here I've got absolute value of 7 minus 3y, horrible handwriting, equal to positive 4. So it does work. Now I'm saying 7 minus 3y is equal to 4. 7 minus 3y is equal to negative 4. Move the 7 over, minus 7. Negative 3y is equal to negative 3. Divide, and y is equal to 1. Here, minus 7. You get negative 3y is equal to negative 11. Divide by negative 3. And y is equal to positive 11 over 3. Okay, so if I put 1 in here, I get 4. Negative 2 is negative 8. Okay, so negative 8 minus 6 is negative 14. If I put the negative 11/3 in there, I'm going to have negative 11, negative 4, positive 4, negative 8, and that would check also. So there you go. That pretty much covers everything. If you do have any questions, feel free to try to let me know before the test. Thank you very much.